Good morning, everyone. How's it going today? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be covering how to use MCP servers in VS Code. And it's going to be very straightforward. What we're going to be covering is what you see right here. First of all, we're going to see what is MCP. Then we're going to see how to connect to an existing third-party MCP server. We're going to take a look at how to create a very quick MCP server in order so that you can connect to your own services. And we're also going to see some security concerns of MCP servers, which is actually becoming a very important topic of discussion. So this is what we're going to be doing. And also by the end of this video, you will have an MCP server that mocks an interaction with your Confluence workspace. So for example, when you go to VS Code in Copilot and you ask it, what is the Confluence documentation of whichever product or application you're working with? It is going to, first of all, call a tool that is going to list the Confluence pages that you have, and then it's going to open the relevant Confluence page, and that way Copilot or VS Code will have access to the context of your documentation before actually implementing anything. And like this, you will be able to create any other MCP server that you can think of. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. All right, so let's take a very quick look at what is MCP in case you have not heard about it before. MCP is essentially just a protocol. It stands for Model Context Protocol, as you see right here. I will add the documentation to the description right here if you want to check it out. But essentially, everything that's going on is that MCP is this protocol that allows you to connect your AI agents or your AI assistants to custom tools or custom integrations, right? So it works with a client-server workflow. You have the client, the MCP client, which is going to be your AI assistant. So for example, Cursor, VS Code, Tray, Claude Desktop, any AI assistant that has support to the MCP protocol. And on the other side, you have the MCP servers, which are the ones who expose that actual third-party integration. So you can have an MCP server that makes it that gives your MCP client access to your inbox, to your email inbox, to your Confluence workspace, to Jira, to GitHub, etc. And that way, your MCP client is going to be able to call the tools that are in this MCP server. Now, let me show you what I mean when I talk about tools. All right, so here we are back in VS Code, and what's going to happen right here is I'm going to click right here in my agent mode of my GitHub Copilot. I'm going to click right here, and it's going to open a list of tools that are actually pre-built into VS Code or into GitHub Copilot. So you have a bunch of tools, for example, check the code base, fetch data from a web page, manage extensions, search a GitHub repo, scaffold a new workspace. It can search inside the workspace. It can run tests, search results in your code space. So basically, these are all the tools that your GitHub Copilot has access to by default, right? And it is a pretty useful list, but it is also a pretty limited one. So as you see right here, there are no tools to connect to your Jira, to your Confluence, or to any other third-party service that you can think of. And that's where MCP comes from. You will be able to add custom tools right here and actually make it make your AI agent use those tools. In other words, let me just show you back right here. What's going to happen is that in agentic workflows, you have your MCP compatible agent. In this case, it's going to be VS Code with GitHub Copilot. And you're going to send a query to your AI assistant. The AI assistant is going to maybe just respond to you with text, or maybe it is going to call some of its built-in tools. So for example, it will maybe try to run some code into your command line. It'll try to write some files in your code base, read some files in your code base, etc. And what's going to happen is that we're going to be able to add these custom toolboxes that will allow your AI agent to interact with this other MCP, with these other services. So in a word, MCP is just a way to create your own set of toolboxes that you're going to make available to your AI agent so that it has access to third-party integrations. And right now, let's actually take a look at some of them and how to actually integrate them into VS Code. Okay, so right here I am back at the documentation page of VS Code right here. We're not going to go through the whole thing right here, but just know that you have this available. I'll leave it in the description as well. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a look at the MCP servers that have been listed by VS Code for you to use. Now you can use any MCP server you want, but these ones right here are of course the safer ones because they have been validated by VS Code. And as you can see, you have pretty big names right here. You have Figma, GitHub, Microsoft as the publishers. I'm going to tell you more about the security of the whole thing, but definitely make sure to only use MCP servers that have been previously validated by either your company or that you have really thoroughly checked them to make sure that they are safe. What we're going to be doing right now is I'm going to be showing you this one right here is one of my favorite ones. In case you don't know what Firecrawl is essentially this service that allows you to crawl websites, and it's specifically designed for large language models, and they work great. If you want to take a look at their website, it's a great website. I don't know if they have a link to their website right here. It is firecrawl.dev. It's a beautiful service that allows you to turn any website into LLM ready data, one of my favorite ones. But what we're going to be doing right here is we're going to be installing this one right here into VS Code because I want to show you how to install pre-existing third-party MCP servers into VS Code. And VS Code actually has one of the most straightforward ways to install an MCP server, especially if it's listed right here. The only thing that you have to do is basically just click right here on install whatever you want to install. It'll prompt you to open Visual Studio Code. So let's click right here. And as you can see, let me just close this right here. It will bring you right here to the Firecrawl MCP server page. And you basically treat it as an extension. You can just click right here on install. It'll ask you for your API key. So I'm going to go to get my API key from Firecrawl. Let me just wait a moment. Here it is. I'm just going to copy it from here. I'm going to paste it here. And there we go. Now I have Firecrawl installed. And now I can just test it right here. So I'm going to say, use Firecrawl to check the contents of this website. And I'm just going to paste another website right here. Let's take this one right here. And let's open it. And as you can see, you'll open this thing right here. It tries to use Firecrawl scrape. I click on continue. And now you can see that it passed this input to Firecrawl. And now Firecrawl is going to return the contents of the page in Markdown very beautifully to allow my MCP client to read it. And then my Copilot actually reads it and delivers it to me. Very good. So that is way number one of installing MCP servers. Now, there is another way, which is a little bit more complex, which is updating the configuration file of MCP. So let's take a look at that. All right, so now let's take a look at how to do the same thing. We're going to be installing Firecrawl again, but we're going to be doing this manually, not from the extensions page. And this is very important because many MCP servers are not going to be available in the extensions repo. So what we're going to do is instead of clicking on install, whatever we want to install, we're going to go take a look at the actual documentation page for that MCP server. And what you're going to find is that there's usually one documentation object that looks like this. Now I'm going to actually, first of all, remove the other one that I had. So in order to remove the one that I just installed, I'm going to go right here to extensions, and all the way to the bottom, you have this MCP servers that are installed. I'm going to click right here. I'm going to click on uninstall. So now I don't have it. I'm going to save right now. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this thing right here from the name of my server. And I'm going to go right here. I'm going to click on this tools icon right here. I'm going to click right here on MCP, add MCP server. And right here, I'm going to click on command STDIO. Most MCP servers that you're going to be installing are going to be running over the STDIO transport. That basically means that they are going to be running inside your machine. So definitely be sure to only install MCP servers that you actually trust. So I'm going to click right here. The command to run this, I'm actually going to leave this empty for now. I'm going to call this Firecrawl like this. And here you have it available to make it available to either Global or Workspace. So I'm going to make it available to every single project that I have. So I'm going to set it on Global. And there we go. This Firecrawl thing was just initialized. And the command, it's of course nothing so far. But here's where this thing comes off right here. So I'm going to take a look at this right here. I'm just going to copy the command, the arguments, and the environment variables that I have to add. So I'm going to put this right here. So the command is going to be npx, the arguments are going to be this ones right here, and the API key, I should get it from the Firecrawl website. Going to paste it right here. Of course, you're going to have to install to create an account in Firecrawl if you want to use Firecrawl. But there you go. As you can see, I already have 6 tools available, and I can just test this again, just rerun the same prompt just to show you that this is also working. And as you can see right here, it also decided to call my Firecrawl scrape tool. And there you go. It ran it and it returned the same results as we did last time. So there you go. That is how to install an MCP server manually. And basically any MCP server has this configuration object that you can just copy and paste right here. Okay. All right. So now let's see how to create your own, because some services will very likely not have an MCP integration. So let's create your own MCP server for your own services. All right, so here we are back in VS Code, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating our own MCP server that connects to Confluence, to our Confluence workspace, and it's going to fetch the documentation from that Confluence workspace. Now, in this particular example, I am actually going to be mocking that integration, because this is not a video about how to use the Confluence API. But just to show you that this works with any custom function that you can think of. Basically, if you can put something into a function, you can turn it into an MCP tool. So let me show you how to do that. But first, let me just show you the starting point from which I'm starting right here. I have created just development environment with UV. So I have my UV log right here. I have my Py project. I have actually installed MCP right here. So in case you have not installed MCP yet, what you're going to do is do UV add MCP. If you're used to running Python, you know UV is the new package manager that has become the standard. If you prefer to use pip, it's the same thing. Just do pip install MCP, and that's going to work as well. The thing right here is that you're going to have to install to initialize a virtual environment, etc., because we're going to be doing this with Python. If you don't know how to use virtual environments, check out this other video where I explain how to set up a virtual environment in Python. But very straightforward. And here's the mocked data that we're going to be serving. So I basically just created an array with 2 objects, each one of which is supposed to be a page in my Confluence workspace. Each one has an ID, a title, and a content that was just synthetically generated for this demo right here. Basically, just mocking the integration with Confluence. I have my entry point that I'm going to show you a little bit more later. And here we have the Python version, which is 3.11 in this particular case. And here I have my server.py, which is where I'm going to be actually creating this MCP server. It's going to be very straightforward, as you will see. So literally all that you're going to have to do is we're going to import FastMCP from here. This is the interface that will make it extremely easy to use MCP servers in Python. It's literally just a few lines, as you're going to see. So we're going to import FastMCP from mcp.server.mcp. And then we're just going to initialize it, MCP equals FastMCP, and you can name it whatever you want. Something important right here is that this variable has to be called either MCP or server, otherwise this is going to cause some trouble. Once that is done, we can basically just start creating the functions that are going to serve us as tools. So this one right here is going to be the get Confluence page by ID. And it has this description right here. Use this tool to get the content of a Confluence page by its ID. Now, something important to note right here is that this description right here, this docstring, is where you usually would have the documentation of this method. This is actually not the documentation, but it is actually the description of the tool that the AI agent is going to be able to read to decide whether or not it has to use this tool. So use this space as a prompt to your tool, to your AI agent, so that it knows what this tool is actually doing. So once you added this very detailed description of what this tool is for, you can just add the implementation. In this case, I'm going to get the Confluence page by ID, so I'm just going to fetch that. Here you can basically actually do the integration with Confluence. In this case, I am just going to be returning the page from the mocked Confluence service that I just imported right here. Very straightforward. And I'm going to pretend that this is actually fetching it from somewhere. I'm going to set it to sleep for 3 seconds, and that's all, to pretend that we're actually fetching from the server. And I'm going to add a second tool right here, which is going to be get Confluence pages, which is going to list all of my Confluence pages that I have available. And same thing here, I'm going to add just a very straightforward tool description. Use this tool to get a list of all Confluence pages available to you. Confluence pages in this workspace contain information about current projects and that the user may be working on. And then we have the results right here, that what this tool actually is supposed to return. Now, something very important to note right here is that whenever I'm creating a tool, I do add this type hints, and that's very important to actually tell the AI agent what kind of data it is supposed to add into, to pass off as parameters into these tools. So very important to add this type hints right here. And then just implementation, which is basically just going to return the page ID and the title of all of my pages in the pages that are mocked right here from my mocked Confluence service. And that's essentially all that we're going to be doing. And then in order to actually turn them into tools, what you're going to be doing is you're going to decorate them with @mcp.tool. That's the decorator that will turn your function into an MCP tool that is going to be available to your AI agent. Essentially, just a very straightforward way to turn any single function that you can think of into an MCP tool. I'm going to do the same thing for this one right here. And there you go. I'm just going to save it. And once that is done, what we're going to do is we're going to actually expose it. And you can either add that right here. So you can either say if name equals main, and then use to MCP run over STDIO, or you can just modularize it a little bit more and actually create an entry point right here. In my case, I just added a main.py, and I am importing server from MCP, which is this one right here. Which is not actually this one. I'm supposed to be importing MCP from MCP. From server import MCP. Yeah, there you go. So I am importing this guy right here, which is my MCP application. I am importing it right here. And if name equals main, so basically if I execute this file, this is going to run on the STDIO transport. And that's essentially all that I have to do. Now I can just initialize it into my own machine, into my own MCP client, and test it out. So let's check it. Let's test that out. All right, so now, just like we did before, we're going to just be installing this MCP server that we just created into our own VS Code. What we're going to be doing, just like before, we're going to open right here. It's going to restart my Copilot right here. Open the tools and click right here on Add New MCP Server. And right here, as we mentioned before, we're going to be running this over STDIO like this. And right here, we're going to add the command to actually run our MCP server. Now, if you coded in Python just like I did, you can either use Python to run this. In my case, I'm going to be using UV because that's just how I like to run these things. And it is uv run main.py because this is the entry file that we're going to be using. Just going to enter, and right here, I'm just going to call it Confluence like that. I'm going to make it available globally, and there we go. This basically just generated my new Confluence configuration object right here. And as you can see, it is of type STDIO. The command is UV, and these are the arguments. However, something very important is that this thing right here is run from my command line, and the command line probably does not know where main.py is, and it will also sometimes have trouble finding my UV binary. So what I'm going to do is, instead of doing this, I am just going to add the absolute path to both of these things. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at where my UV is. So it's this one right here. I'm just going to remove this right here. I'm going to paste the actual complete absolute path to my UV binary. And then I'm going to say where I am right here. So I am right here. So I'm going to say run. And here we're going to say the directory is going to be this one right here. And then I'm just going to paste this like this and save, and it should be able to run now. Let's take a look at it. I'm going to click on restart, and there we go. We have our 2 tools available, and those tools are the ones that I just coded right here, which is get Confluence page by ID and get Confluence pages. Very, very straightforward. So I'm just going to save this. I'm going to go right here and actually test it out to take a look at, to see if it actually works. I'm going to say, check the Confluence documentation page for my garden application. Now let's take a look. And let's see, so it used one reference apparently, and there we go. So get Confluence pages and use this tool in order to list all the Confluence pages. There we go. We can click and continue, and there you go. It returned on the list of Confluence pages. It checked that I have my smart garden monitor right here, and then it used this tool. So basically what it did is use one tool and then the other one, so it called 2 tools. And now it's calling the Confluence contents of the page ID 1, 2, 3. So let's take a look at it. And this page is going to return my smart garden monitor. And here we have all the documentation for this application, kind of mocked from my Confluence page. And here's the Confluence documentation for your garden application, blah, blah, blah. And there you go. This is how this works. Now we have successfully created our own MCP servers. All right, so now before we actually leave, I wanted to mention something very important about the security concerns of MCP servers. Now, as you can see right here, this is what an MCP tool looks like, but remember that I told you that what is sent to the language model is the description of the tool that you add right here, where the documentation of the tool would be, where the docstring would be. Now, that is incredibly important to notice because that is the only thing from your tool that is being sent to the language model. In other words, your language model will select the tool based on the description, regardless of what the code is, because the LLM will not be able to see the code. So it is completely possible that a tool will claim to do something in the description of the tool, and then it will actually do something completely different without you ever noticing it. That is why it is incredibly important that you only install MCP servers that you completely trust, either because they were created by bigger companies, by teams that you trust, by the official publishers of the service that you're trying to use, or by yourself. So that's why I wanted to show you how to create your own MCP servers. So very, very important. Do not trust any MCP server that you find on the internet. Now, that being said, this right here is mostly a concern when you're running your MCP servers locally over STDIO. If you don't know what that is, feel free to check out my course on MCP servers. I actually have a complete bootcamp on how to create and build MCP agents. But yeah, just be very careful about it. Security is a thing that is in continuous research. I'm going to be talking about it more right here on the channel. But this right here is one of the most common exploits of MCP servers, so be very, very careful. So there you go. Thank you very much for watching. It is a pleasure as usual and a big honor to have you right here. So thank you very much, and I will see you in the next one.